Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Matchbook Champions League podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides, and we're here to look ahead to this week's quarter-finals in Europe's Premier Club competition. Things are getting very serious indeed now, and joining me to have a look at the ties and, as always, try and find the best possible value for you guys out there is Mark O'Haire and Ian Broadrick, aka Brothers. Before we get to the guys and their tips and the four fantastic-looking games we've got to look at this week, we want to tell you guys, well, firstly, we want to thank you guys for voting for us, because for the third consecutive year, Matchbook has won Best Betting Podcast in the SBC Awards, the Smart Betting Club Awards, a hat-trick of titles. I'm not sure anyone's previously done that, a bit like Real Madrid in the Champions League, winning 3 in a row. So thank you very much, guys, for voting for us. And also, we've got the SBC Best Tipster on the program as well, because Mark picked up an individual award as well. He's a bit shy, doesn't like to blow his own trumpet, so allow me to blow it for you, indeed, as it were. Mark. Well done, Mark, and well done to us guys, and thanks for voting for us. Okay, enough trumpet blowing. Let's get on with the games that we've got to talk about this week, because there are some really, really fascinating ties, and we're going to kick it off by talking about the blockbuster one, the Bayern Munich against PSG clash. Bayern at 1.91, PSG at 3.88. The draw is at 4.05. You can get Bayern with a minus half a goal handicap at 1.9. PSG with a plus half a goal start at evens. The goal line is set at 3. You can get overs at 1.84, unders at 2.07. Before I go to the guys, just to remind you that if you're listening to the podcast, fine. If you're watching us, we are live across all social media channels on Matchbook, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. So if you want to get involved, send us a comment, send us a question, send us a message. We will read it out as well. Ulahan says, hi guys, and he thinks Bayern are still clear favourites without Lewandowski. We're going to mention usually team news is absolutely vital when we are trying to pick a selection. And no Lewandowski, brothers, but you still fancy Bayern?
Yes, I think Ilhan's probably correct in what he's thinking. Obviously, Bayern without Lewandowski is a huge miss for them, but they come here off a win against RB Leipzig at the weekend, 1-0, which was pretty much a title decider in the Bundesliga. They managed to get that with Choupo-Moting up front, the top draw Choupo-Moting, who's played for PSG as well, and Stoke, of course. But I think looking at the context of this match, both teams are missing a very important player. And the key here is that PSG's missing player, in my view, is going to be far more important for them than Lewandowski being missing for Bayern. So they're missing Verratti, who's tested positive for COVID. And we've seen how important Verratti is for this team. You know, when he came back into it, the transition from back to front was so much smoother for PSG. He's an absolutely immense player. He's finally getting the plaudits that he fully deserves. And without him, PSG's midfield is just pretty terrible at this level, to be honest with you. You know, when you're talking about players like Herrera and Gay and Sanabria or whoever, it's just not up to this level. So when you come to a team like Bayern, we're going to find Bayern dominating possession almost certainly. And they're going to win this game in midfield for me. I think if you look at the options they have up front, they've still got Sane, Gnabry, Muller, Coman, Choupo-Moting. You know, so there's a possibility that they might try and play with a sort of fluid front four, or play with Choupo-Moting as a central striker. They've got a lot of options there, but I can't see PSG's defence having the ability to keep out Bayern over 90 minutes. Certainly, you know, at least sort of once or twice I expect Bayern to score here. I know Mark quite likes PSG to score. And obviously you can't rule out Mbappe, Neymar, the geniuses that they are going forwards. But I think Lille showed at the weekend when PSG lost 1-0 that it is possible to keep a lid on these players. Because, again, without Verratti, they just weren't getting the service. And they were getting, you know, Neymar eventually got sent off because he got frustrated, as he often does in these big matches. And it's a situation where it's a first leg. I think PSG, in some ways, would even accept a small loss if they could feel that they were still in the tie. But I think everything sets up for Bayern to have the ability to control the game and to win it fairly comfortably. I see Cyrus has just asked whether or not Neymar's playing. I'm assuming he would be. I mean, he was sent obviously at the weekend, but he showed he was back to full fitness. So there's no reason that he wouldn't be playing. So, yeah, for me, looking at the two teams, Bayern obviously beat them in the final very recently and beat them 1-0. It's just a game that sets up very well with Bayern, even without Lewandowski. And I think without Verratti, PSG are going to really struggle. And it's, that's as someone who likes PSG's back them anti-post, but I don't hold out much hope for them in this game, to be honest. And there was a little bit of even money kicking around this morning for Bayern, which has been mopped up. I think you can still get them at around 1.95. I think the exchange markets are still developing, so it's nearer 1.9 maybe on the exchange. But anything around that sort of 1.9, 1.95 is real value for money for me, and I think it's a strong play.
Okay, I know, Mark, broadly speaking, you agree with Brothers and quite fancy Bayern as well, but you're potentially looking at an angle of backing PSG to score and lose against Bayern.
Yeah, I mean, my main play would be Bayern to win. I don't think there's any issue with that, and from pretty much exactly the same reasons as Brothers has outlined, really. All the headlines coming into this game will be about Lewandowski's absence, and I was surprised he went with Choupo-Moting at the weekend against Leipzig. I think he will go with the fluid front four, which Brothers talked about, really. And they weren't a million miles away from the best 11, really, considering Nicolas Sula was back in the team as well. I know Jerome Boateng missed out, and Davies was suspended for that game too. But what really impressed me against Leipzig was just the control that they had. They were probably second best if you look at chances created, etc. But in terms of just, they didn't get out of second gear, and they didn't need to, really. And I think that's the worry if you try and oppose Bayern, is they've just got another level every single time you kind of go toe to toe with them, really. And as Brothers said, the attention might be on Lewandowski, but Verratti's absence is massive. He's the on-field leader. He's the organizer. He's the gifted player who links defensive midfield, sets the tempo. And yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence if you look at PSG's poor performances this season and defeats. It's been when Verratti's been absent. Man United won in Paris when he was missing. They lost at Leipzig when he was missing. Lost home and away against Monaco when he was missing. Lost at home to Lille at the weekend without him, and away at Lorient recently too. So, he did play at the Camp Nou when they tore Barcelona to shreds. But I don't think that game is anywhere you can kind of compare to what Bayern Munich are going to offer at all. Really, it was a tactical masterclass from a PSG's perspective, really. And also, if you look at that second leg, I'd just love to have seen what happened. What would have happened if Messi had converted that penalty before half time? Because they conceded 21 shots and 10 shots on target in that second leg. So they weren't exactly good at kind of keeping Barcelona at bay either. So, yeah, I look at Pochettino as well. I don't think he's got any identity over his team right now, constantly changing system and personnel. Neymar at the weekend again just showed he can be a massive liability in these big games too. So yeah, there's quite a few red flags around me for PSG right now. Just on the BTTS angle, I thought it was a nice leap really from around 195 on Bayern to win. So I think it's 325 on Bayern to win and both teams to score. A Bayern team that have kept 3 clean sheets in 21 games. You look at the talent in that PSG armoury going forward, they will probably create a couple of chances and they have got the quality to score. I just think if you're going to go into a basketball showdown with Bayern, they're going to come out on top. I'm not convinced it will be that though. We saw it and we kind of hoped for it in the Champions League final, but Bayern were very controlled that day and kind of kept PSG at arm's length. Wouldn't be too surprised if we saw something similar. I just thought the price was worth highlighting considering the stats and trends.
Definitely. Very interesting potential value bet there with Bayern and both teams to score. Just to mention, as you said, Bayern have just drifted out to 1.95 since we've been on air, since I quoted the price of 1.91. Obviously, we changed the markets, it's up to 1.96 now. So, I don't know, maybe people are watching and not convinced by our arguments. There we go. But yes, keep an eye on that. But at the time of recording, Bayern currently, right now, 1.96 to win, which currently, right now, looks like a pretty good bet. Let's move on and talk about another game this week. Chelsea against Porto. Chelsea coming off the back of a barely believable 5-2 thrashing at the hands of West Brom in the Premier League. Porto are unbeaten in the Portuguese league since October, but they're still 7 points behind leaders Sporting Club. These are the odds then. You can get Porto at 5.2 to win. They are at home, by the way, they're the home side. Chelsea at 1.8 and the draw is at 3.58. You can get Porto with a plus 3.25 goals start at 1.86. Chelsea minus 3.25 at 2.04. And the goal line is 2.25, 2.25, overs at 2.01, unders at 1.87. Mark, you feel pretty confident about the goals angle on this, and you don't think it's going to be a goal fest?
No, I don't really. Just starting on Porto, they were the outsiders of the competition. I think everybody wanted to draw Porto in the quarterfinals, and understandably so as well. They're the only group runner-up left in the competition. But I have been impressed with their organisation, with their tenacity, and with their application, not just this season, but throughout Sergio Conceição's reign, really. And he's very brave and abrasive as a character, and I think his team play in the same way. There's a huge amount of pride and responsibility that they play with, particularly at the Dragão as well. I've heard former players talking about the feeling that they have when they play at the Dragão, and they feel like they've got a divine right to win every home game, regardless of who they're playing. And that kind of attitude feeds into Conceição's attitude as well. Very fearless character, and I think his team play in that manner. They're a team of battlers, and I think you can get an idea for what his mindset is like, because before the weekend game against Santa Clara, he pretty much spent the whole pre-match press conference talking about an actual fight and bust-up he had with his opposite number beforehand. He wasn't interested in the game. It was all more about point scoring against the opposite team, really. So he'll have his team bouncing off the walls for this one. I do think they are dangerous, but I think the kind of shock factor isn't no longer really there abound after what we saw against Juventus, where they forced the errors in that first leg. And I think if we're being balanced over things, you look at the goals that they scored against Juventus, came from mistakes, a long-range free kick and a penalty, really. And they probably have struggled to create a bit too much in this competition. I think they're generating around 10 expected goals from 8 games, and that's considering they're in a reasonable pool. I know they have Man City there, but Marseille and Olympiacos as well. So plus Taremi and Sergio Oliveira are suspended too, so they are weaker on paper. I think when I came into this game, I probably wanted Porto +1 onside on the Asian handicap, but that's not going to be possible for obvious reasons. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Chelsea react to Saturday. I'm putting it down as a bit of a fluke result. I think it can happen after an international break, and although it was quite shocking, I think there will be a reaction. But yeah, in terms of the bet, I do think the goal line is quite low. But for I don't think you can argue with it, really. I think it's got all the hallmarks of the same 2 legs Chelsea played against Atletico, defence against attack, an underdog which is just hell-bent on denying the opponents and denying opportunities and creating space, really. So, yeah, Chelsea aren't actually scoring freely just yet under Tuchel. A lot's been made of their fantastic defence and possession, which is keeping opposition teams at bay. But I think they've only netted twice or more, if you exclude penalties and own goals, in 3 games under Tuchel. So, yeah, I think Porto can keep this game reasonably competitive. I do expect Chelsea to probably get the result, but I'm not going to back them at odds-on quotes at all. So, yeah, if you're going to swerve the handicaps and the 1x2 like I am, I think under 2.25 at 1.88 is absolutely fair enough, considering we're making money as long as there's fewer than 3 goals. I think that's absolutely fine.
Okay, worth clarifying, Porto are the home side, but this game is being played in Seville at the Estadio Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, not at the Estadio do Dragão. Brothers, you're a Chelsea fan. We know that. The viewers know that. Everybody knows that. Comment here from Jamal, who says Timo Werner's not having a great time. He's not, brothers, is he?
Not since he was granted citizenship of Macedonia at the week. So, no, he's clearly lacking confidence in front of goal. He's not the same player as we saw at Leipzig last season. But I think, it's possible, more than possible. I think we'll see Giroud leading the line here in this game. He's been Tuchel's go-to sort of centre forward for Europe since he put in that amazing performance against Sevilla. And I think, everything Mark says is very fair. I think what we'll see is Porto probably trying to employ the same high-pressing tactics that they got success with against Juventus. I couldn't agree more. They're going to be wildly up for this game. We might see a few tackles flying in, to be honest with you. And, it might be one of those markets. We haven't got the referee yet for the game. Sorry, excuse me. So, if it's a card-friendly referee for this match, then it might be an angle to consider either in play or beforehand. But I think, I don't have a firm view. I'm slightly worried that Porto's press could lead to more goals than might consider the case, because I think Chelsea have got the ability to play around it. They've got Jorginho, they've got Mount. It's something that they are more than capable of doing. And then if they can get around that, then Porto can concede goals. So I'm not as confident on the under 2.25, but I certainly wouldn't be backing overs with any confidence. It's just a game for me to enjoy and hopefully win, Chelsea win 5-0 and I can relax.
Yes. Well, no. Hopefully Chelsea win 2-0.
Well, 2-0. 2-0. We'll take 2-0. Yeah, 2-0's fine.
There we go. All right, let's move on and talk about our third game, which is the biggest game this week in terms of prestige, I think. Real Madrid against Liverpool. Between them, they have 19 Champions League titles, both sides coming into this off the back of decent results at the weekend. Real Madrid beating Eibar 2-0. Liverpool, very impressive in their 3-0 demolition of Arsenal. You can get Real Madrid at 2.83. Liverpool, 2.61. They're favourites to win in the Spanish capital. The draw is at 3.54. You can get Real Madrid at a draw no bets 2.02. Liverpool on a -0 goal handicap of 1.89. The goal line is 2.75. You can get overs at 2.03, unders at 1.86. So, as we said, this is a monstrous clash between two of the most successful sides in the Champions League. They know how to get the job done. Brothers, you're not backing one of these sides to win. You like goals in this.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a very interesting game, isn't it? Because, Liverpool have shortened up quite a bit off the back of that performance against Arsenal. And the market seems to be sort of believing that Liverpool are back and they're the team they were last season. And I'm not as convinced. Obviously that was a very good performance, but I think playing Real Madrid, at the Bernabeu is going to be a different proposition for them.
At the Estadio Alfredo Di Stefano, the training ground.
Oh, I'm sorry, of course. Yes. Yeah, sorry, I do apologise. But it's still going to be a totally different proposition. I think what we do know though is that both defences are going to be relatively frail compared to where they could be. Liverpool are potentially going to be playing Kovac and Phillips again. And Ramos is going to be out for Real Madrid, which again we've talked about previously is clearly a huge loss for them in terms of his leadership and organisational ability at the back there. I know Varane was rested at the weekend and will come back, but I think you look at this game and for me it sets up very well for goals because I think Real Madrid know that they need to try and win this game to stand a chance of progressing. I don't think they would necessarily fancy chasing a result in the second leg. So I look at the way that Liverpool controlled the ball and Mane and Salah looked back to their best at the weekend against Arsenal. I thought they both looked very sharp. Real Madrid are conceding goals still. I know they've had a decent record recently. They've won their last 4, but the clean sheet against Eibar was their first clean sheet in 6 matches. And they've shown in the Champions League that playing high level opposition that they struggle to keep clean sheets. So for me, I'm not going to try and predict which one of these teams is going to play to their best potential because both have been in and out this season. They've both thrown in shockers. They've both thrown in some great performances. Real Madrid's 3-1 victory over Atalanta was a great performance in the last round. So I think the safest way to approach this is to look at goals. Unusually for me, I think, I would normally be the one taking a more aggressive line than Mark. But for me, I think just taking over 2.5 is the way to approach this as well. You can get that around 1.85, 1.9. And I think that's a cracking bet. I think it's a really strong play in a game where neither defence is going to hold up against the opposition. And, Real Madrid should have Hazard back, at least on the bench, it's predicted. So he potentially can come on and get injured again, the way he's done this season. But Benzema's, been fabulous. And they've still got the attacking ability to hurt this Liverpool backline. So, yeah, goals for me.
Okay, there we go. 1.84 currently trading over 2.5 goals, which looks like a very tempting bet. Obviously, the last time these two sides met was in the 2018 final. It finished 3-1 to Real Madrid. But of course, there's no Gareth Bale for Real Madrid. There's no Karius in goal for Liverpool either. Mark, you heading towards goals as well?
Not massively, if I'm honest. This is probably the one I haven't got the biggest view on, in all honesty. I'd be slightly more in Liverpool's camp, though. I do think Ramos's absence is key. 7 Champions League defeats in 10 without him recently now. And, you can think of some of Real Madrid's lowest days in this competition, recent memory, and they've come with him not on the field, really. So, and I've said it a few times, I do think Spanish teams, potentially in their setup, are probably not well suited to playing Premier League teams right now, and that might be borne out by the slower pace style domestically these days. I'm not sure, but Madrid themselves have evolved quite significantly really in the past 18, 24 months. Much more attritional now rather than that sort of flashy, swashbuckling team. And obviously going to a 3-man defence recently, and on Saturday against Eibar, Varane will come back into that defence, but there's weakness there for me. And I think last round against Atalanta, I don't think they were tested anywhere near enough as to what we probably anticipated them to be. And the red card after 17 minutes certainly helped in the first leg, but Atalanta just looked in awe of Madrid in the second leg, really. And sure, there's absolute boundless quality in that team, particularly in midfield, and Benzema in the form of his life too. So I'm certainly not ruling them out, but I just think Liverpool have improved a lot since Fabinho's been moved back into central midfield. I do think Phillips and Kabak have grown into their centre-back roles, but Fabinho just moving into midfield just changes everything, not just going forward, but also defensively too. So, yeah, they look like they're trying to find their place again. I think what's key really for me about Liverpool is they've had pretty much 3 weeks off before the Arsenal game because they weren't involved in the FA Cup or the Premier League. They looked really fresh. You look at the players who didn't go away with their international teams either: Trent, Fabinho, Salah, Mane, Alisson, Milner, Firmino. They looked fresh, they looked refreshed, and I think they were absolutely fantastic against Arsenal as well. So if they can reach anywhere near those levels, which they have done quite often away from home, away from Anfield recently, I do think they can at least pick up a share of the spoils in the first leg. And therefore, if I had to, I'd probably pick Liverpool +0 on the Asian handicap at 189. It's not a confident pick at all, but just interestingly too, I think Liverpool are reasonably heavily favoured to qualify, but 59% of teams who play the second leg at home have gone through to the semi-finals in Champions League history. 13 of those 18 have actually drawn the first leg as well. So quite interesting. I think Liverpool don't need to win this game, so you'd have to have the draw on side, whichever way you played it.
Those stats are usually with fans, though. It's going to be different going to Anfield, and I think a lot's being made here of the fact that there's not going to be any fans at Anfield. Okay, there's not going to be any fans at the Di Stefano. It's a small training grounds, 5,000 capacity. It doesn't really matter. Anfield is going to be a little bit different. A couple of questions or comments, really. Jamal says, Nacho's having a great time. Solid defence with Varane and Mendy. Vinicius will have a big impact with his speed with a vulnerable Liverpool defence. And it's true, Nacho's been playing very well in Sergio Ramos's absence, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not he plays. I mean, Nacho's going to play, Varane's going to play, and Mendy's going to play. Whether we see them in a back three or as Mendy as a fullback, we'll see, because we could see Mendy as in a back three, and then Marcelo playing up ahead of him with Lucas Vazquez as a wing back. We'll see. And also, Ulahan says hopefully Jota will start over Firmino. I think Diego Jota has given himself plenty of chances.
What's your view then, Phil? From your side, are you confident?
Yeah, I think I'm always relatively confident when Real Madrid play at home in the Champions League, and I think the price for Real Madrid, to see Real Madrid as outsiders, was quite surprising to me when I checked the market. Just given, I know Real Madrid have been a little bit up and down this season, but they're starting to hit a bit of form now where they're grinding out results. They don't necessarily need to be playing brilliantly. They're grinding out results, and they're doing that for a couple of reasons. One of them is having Karim Benzema in the form of his life, literally in the best scoring form of his life. He scored in 7 consecutive games. He's never done that before. Have a look at him in the anytime goal scorers market. It won't be huge, but it might be worth a look, because, like I said, he's in the form of his life. He loves the Champions League, and he's scored 70 goals in the Champions League as well. And with Sergio Ramos not around, he might even take penalties as well if a penalty is given. So have a look at Benzema in the anytime goal scorer market. And also, the midfield is so strong for Real Madrid. Those 3 players, Kroos, Modric and Casemiro, are also having one of the best seasons of their life as well. So if Benzema's playing incredibly well, the midfield's playing incredibly well, and Thibaut Courtois is playing brilliantly as well, I think that spine is strong enough for them to cause literally any team problems this season. And when the biggest games this season have come, they've responded. They won 3-1 at the Camp Nou against Barcelona. They beat Atletico Madrid 2-0 at home and drew 1-1 with them away. They beat Inter Milan, who are running away with Serie A. Don't forget, Inter finished bottom of their Champions League group. Real Madrid beat them as well. So I don't know. When the big games come, I always fancy Real Madrid. So that's my 2 pence on it. But there we go.
Big week for them with Barcelona at the weekend as well, isn't it? So I mean,
they're calling it here. Obviously, I'm based in Madrid. They're calling it here La Semana Fantástica, the fantastic week, which could be fantastic or it could be absolutely awful, depending on what happens. But yeah, you've got Liverpool, the Clásico at the weekend, and then Liverpool at Anfield. So it is a really, really huge 8 days for Real Madrid. Final game then. I mean, I could talk about Real Madrid all day, but we'll move on and talk about Manchester City. This, in theory, is the most one-sided tie this week. Man City against Dortmund. City 1.375 to win at home. Dortmund are at 9.5. The draw is at 5.5. You can get City with minus a goal and a half handicap at 2.01. Dortmund with a plus goal and a half start at 1.89. The goal line is 3. Overs at 1.87, unders at evens. Of course, Manchester City are 14 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Dortmund are 7 points off a Champions League spot in the Bundesliga, but they've got Erling Haaland, and we all know that he's capable of doing absolutely anything. Mark, doesn't matter that they've got Haaland, does it? You're backing City.
It is a worry, obviously, and so does City's kind of past experiences in this competition. They've tripped up in similar sort of circumstances. Monaco, Lyon, Spurs even come to mind. The Lyon game in particular was probably a little bit harsh considering the balance of play, but either way, there are warning signs there from a City perspective. But yeah, they have been pretty ominous, pretty formidable. I think they're fair Champions League outright favourites these days as well. So it's difficult to find faults in them. So clearly the Haaland factor is something to bear in mind. But plus Dortmund's ability to play on the counter-attack. And we saw how incisive they can be in Sevilla in the first leg in the last round. But actually the first 10 minutes of the Clásico too. But against Bayern. So yeah, it'll be a great test of Stones and Diaz at the back for Man City. But at the end of the day, City keep the ball much better than the way Sevilla did in that first leg. So they're going to limit those chances. You'd like to think they've literally got no injuries. They've got an incredible squad, a ridiculous winning streak. I know it was punctured by that Man United loss, but just performing wonderfully well, especially against the elite teams in the Premier League as well. So, as the season has progressed, they've evolved into being the most feared attacking unit and the best defence in the league too. They're basically the complete package right now. And Dortmund are at a very low ebb. That pivotal game against Frankfurt at the weekend, some of the defending was just shambolic, really, as have some of the goals they've conceded all season. And the team selection as well came in for criticism. You had Emre Can playing at right back. They had 3 right backs on the bench. And, of course, the opening goal, a bizarre own goal, came from the right side, which Can was defending as well. So Haaland isn't happy at all. He's angling for that summer move at the moment. And he's clearly very dangerous. And if he's in the mood, he's going to impress. Which I expect him to do so anyhow. But Sancho, he will probably leave as well. He's failed to hit last season's heights. And yeah, there's undoubted potential there if possession does get turned over. But I just think, look at Dortmund at the moment. There's issues there. They've got such a soft underbelly. They're so fragile. They're so vulnerable in central midfield and at the back defensively too. I'm just not sure they're going to have enough opportunities to really hurt City. Whereas I think City are going to control the contest, just dominate this match and dominate the tie. I don't think Dortmund have the required application, the required tenacity to stop them, really. So, I think there's echoes of this Dortmund team kind of in the back throws of Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, where there's still some quality in forward areas, a remnants of a good team there, but just completely unbalanced. And, they just, when they come up against ruthless, confident opposition, they're going to falter. So, yeah, I expect City to cover the Asian handicap. I'm not surprised it's contracted to evens now. It's 2.06 when I looked this morning. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if that goes off odds on. Okay.
Everything Mark said, but, brothers, Dortmund have Haaland.
Yes, everything Mark said.
Okay. No, you don't need to go into too much detail. Then you guys both agree on this. Yeah?
No, I think the result. I mean, Mark, I may not be aware. It looks like Sancho won't be fit for this leg, although they're hoping he'll be fit for the return leg. So, Manchester City average just under 60% possession at home in the Champions League. I think everything Mark has said is wrong. True. I expect Manchester City to dominate possession. They'll be patient, and they know that this Dortmund defence will give them opportunities. And it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Aguero possibly play. Now he's come back to full fitness. That sort of finisher that they need in the box for this type of game. They'll play their little boys into the channels. I expect Guerrero to come back in at left back after Schultz's nightmare at the weekend. But essentially whichever team Dortmund play, Man City will have an answer for at the moment. And they've, Mark mentioned their winning run. I mean, if you look back at the last 20 odd games, I think they've won 19 of 20, obviously. And of those 19 games, they've won 16 of them by 2 or more goals. So this is not a team that is happy to sit on a 1-0. They'll just keep the relentless pressure on. And, we know that Haaland has got the quality that if you give him a chance, he could score here. But I don't expect him to get given the chance. I don't think Dortmund will have the creativity to carve open this Man City defence. I think they'll be alive to the risk of the breaks. And I don't think Pep's going to, I honestly don't think Pep's going to mess it up this time. I mean, I know he's his famous last words. I mean, but the problem he's had is trying to be too clever at this stage of the competition. He's been trying to think too much about the opposition and too little about Manchester City. And I think in Dortmund, he's got a team that allows him just to say, okay, let's just play our game. And I think if they do that, they'll win it comfortably. So I'm with Mark. I think -1.5 odds against is a good bet.
Okay, there we go. Before we go, let's recap our 4 bets that we've picked for each game. We like Bayern to win at 1.96. Porto against Chelsea, we like it to go under 2.25 goals at 1.88. Madrid against Liverpool, over 2.5 goals at 1.84. And Manchester City to win with a -1.5 goal handicap at just over evens. Looks pretty tempting. Before we go, as ever on the show, I get the guys one best bet of the week. And we've done it again. We haven't discussed previously prior to recording the best bets. So I'm going to go. You, Mark. You can go first. What's your best bet of the week? Let's see if it was the one that Brothers would have chosen.
I don't think it will, thankfully, but City -1.5 would be mine.
Oh my God!
That's really good.
That's so annoying. Yes, so annoying.
That's good. That's
Sorry.
good. It shows that it's a strong play when both of you are thinking it's the best.
You sounded so confident on the Liverpool game. I assume that would be it. So,
Brothers, what's your second best bet of the week?
Well, I agree with Mark. I think Man City -1.5 is. To be honest with you, I think there's 3 really good bets this week. I like that. I like Bayern to win, and I like goals in the Liverpool game. But I'd take Bayern to win at 1.95, 1.96. That's the level. So.
Okay, there we go. Got some really strong plays this week, so hope you enjoy the matches. We'll be back next week to discuss the second legs as ever. Make sure you join us then, and as ever, of course, please gamble responsibly. We'll see you next week. Adios.